back to Retrieving Sanity with your podcast host, Keegan, and this is your podcast for all mental health, addiction, recovery issues, and topics. And today we have a very special guest. She is a trauma specialist, and she also hacks systems, but not the kind that you would think whenever we talk about systems, but let's break it down in a way that we can all maybe understand a little bit better. So, Tammy, how are you doing today?
I am fabulous. How are you doing?
I'm glad to hear that. I'm doing fairly well myself. A little bit tired, but that's just from living day to day.
Well, let's get you out of that, huh? Let's get you soaring high.
Well, I mean,
Not
that's
not
what
on the strong stuff. I mean in the consciousness
the high on life.
realm. Yes.
High on life. Okay.
High
Well,
on the emotional scale. There we go.
oh, I like that. And the emotional scale is one of those things that you like to kind of hack, isn't it?
That's my jam. That's where I live. That's where I live.
Okay. So if you like jam and we have some bread, and that bread is trauma, you're an expert at making sandwiches, right? So,
Yeah, but not trauma sandwiches. Yeah, yeah, that's an interesting one. We're looking to take apart the sandwich, pull out the shit that we don't want, pull out the stuff that no longer serves us, and then put some good stuff on there and slap it back together, and then hand it to you. That's what I'm about.
ooh, okay, so you're all about making it better and getting stuff out of there. So there's things in trauma that we don't want, but somehow it also shapes us at the same time, right?
Yeah, so the stuff we don't want in there is all the pain.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you think about a traumatic event, right, what holds you to that event is the pain you have attached to it. So once we go like this and we pull the pain out of it, all of a sudden it's a very neutral event. You can watch it and say, what wisdom can I glean from this event?
So do you have any personal experience with this?
Yes, like so many of us. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I was in pretty bad shape. I had lived through a very traumatic childhood. Coming into my adulthood, I'm like, I'm good. It's all behind me. And then I become a wife and a mom, and all my triggers start going off, right?
Yeah.
Started sounding, I was not okay.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a point where I realized that I had some wounds that I had festering within me, and they were not going to be silenced.
Mm-hmm.
No, and for me, I went so low as to, almost taking my life a few times because I said, I can't live with this pain anymore.
Yeah.
So it was a decision. I said, well, I'm either going to take my life or I'm going to heal it. And so
That's powerful.
that was the decision I made.
Well, I see that you made a great decision because you're still here with us. So
I know. Isn't
first
that
of all,
good?
it's amazing.
Yeah.
So I want to say congratulations on pulling through it, first of all. And second, I'm really sorry that you had to go through it in the first place. But
Yeah.
I'm even more excited to say you get to sit here and help people through that kind of stuff themselves now.
I am to the place that I try to guide everyone else to, where I can look back and say, thank you, trauma, for the gift you gave me. Thank you for the wisdom. Thank you for the trauma I indeed chose. I believe that I chose the trauma. I chose the lessons I came here to learn this time around, every time around. But I believe that I really chose that. And that's taking full ownership, which makes you very, very powerful. It's how I've been able to shift everything and anything that I've desired to shift about myself and my life is by owning all of it and saying it's all working out for my good, and it all will work out for my good no matter how it looks currently.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So how do you own trauma? How do you own the pattern of it? How do you actually get to a space with yourself to say, I'm okay with accepting that?
Well, I think first you got to start pulling the pain out of the body. So here we are, most of us adults, and we're living with just tons of pain that we were taught to gulp down and stick it way down deep. Don't feel it. Don't touch it. Just leave it there. Here we come, and then as we, with each age and each heartbreaking situation, the pain piles up and it piles up and it piles up and it piles up. Well, it's quite simply, you can pull the pain out of your body, right?
Yeah.
There's tons of different modalities out there, but I find it simple through my process is to, okay, I look for the pattern, right? We look the pattern, and I have my clients take me back to the point the pattern started for them, the belief that created the life experience. And once we get to the belief, they have an event around it, right? A traumatic event. And so what we look at, we're looking at the belief that was created, and we're looking to extract the pain out of the event. And once we do that, they'll take a deep breath and it's past, right? And if you do that enough with all this pain in your body from these events, if you do that enough, all of a sudden you have all this freed up space, right? And from there, you could create whatever in your life, whatever beliefs you choose to replace those with, you can, but you have all this freed up space. So I think that is step one.
Step one. I like that a lot. So how do you start doing that though?
Well, the easiest way is to hire someone like me, someone who has walked through it, someone who's like, because my biggest pain point was when I was looking for help. I was doing the therapy, the counseling, the books, the retreats, all the things.
Yeah.
None of them really got to the root cause of my problem. They would be Band-Aids, and I'd feel a little bit better for a minute, and then all the old stuff started coming back up. So I wanted to find a way to permanently shift my identity. And so in order to do that, I couldn't really do that until I started working with the young me, the 0 to 5 me, because that was the me that created everything I am today, that created everything we are as adults, is that little version of us, because we got downloaded with the system and we didn't have the ability to reject any of the information. So it just got uploaded into our hard drive, and here we are. And I didn't want to be stuck with that hard drive, because I didn't like who I was. I hated myself to the core of my being. And so I had to go back into my childhood, and I had to start releasing this old stuck program. And so there's many ways. In fact, right now I'm working on a journal that is essentially the process I work on with my clients. I'm putting it in a journal format so people can start to process their own stuff on themselves. And also my podcast, what I take, it's a different format. It's not interview style. People come on. It's called Behind the Veil Anonymous Transformation. So they come on completely anonymous, and I actually we identify their patterns, and then I take them through a process to heal it. So it's very powerful, very deep. I always tell them, this is not going to be like any other therapy you've done. We're going straight to the seed, straight to the belief. We're going straight to the source of your pain.
Man, that's really cool. And whenever you walk someone through that, how fast do they really feel or see the change?
Well, they can shift immediately, because they realized the moment that they created that belief, and it makes sense for them. Because when we're kids, we don't realize that when the thought comes in, it's not actually true. Right? So I'll give you for instance, in my line of work, we call them life commands. It's that limiting belief that's so impressed on that hard drive that it's kind of shows up in all of the negative events across your life, right? And mine was, I'm unlovable. So when I went back to heal these different events, that was the belief that popped up on every single one of them. So when I found the event where that belief was created, it was like, oh, that makes so much sense. That little girl in me believed, because I had an abusive father. So I believed, oh, he's abusing me because I'm not lovable. Now I can go back and be like, no, that's not rational. My father actually believed that he was protecting me. In his eyes, that wasn't abuse. It was discipline. In his eyes, it was nothing. It was his form of protecting me. It wasn't malicious. Was it right or wrong? It wasn't right. Any kind of physical discipline, I tell people this now, it reads as trauma on every child. Even raising your voice can read as trauma. Not that we always get it right. We're not. We're going to mess our kids up. But I had to see it through a different lens. And the lens that I can now see it is that my dad was just trying to protect me. He didn't want me to go through all the terrible things that he did. He had a horrific life. And so in his own way, that was his protection. But I didn't read it that way because I was a little child, right? So
Yeah.
I can reprogram myself, go back to the little girl and say, no, we're rewriting the story. Like we're changing the whole script. And we could
Okay.
do that. We could do that because there's no such thing as time and space. That's what physics tells us. We've created this illusion of time and space, but there's no such thing. So
No.
yeah.
That's awesome. So you are essentially rewriting your history to essentially suit you the way that you need it to be done now, right?
The way I choose. Yeah. I'm rewriting the story. Yeah.
And so by rewriting the story, you get to essentially rewrite your future too.
Exactly. The present, the when you change the past, you change the present and you change the future. You change it all at once because it's an illusion that it's not the same thing, you know?
Yeah. And whenever you're dealing with your pre-programming, I guess we could say, we could treat trauma as malware or a virus, essentially something that may have found its way in through a little crack in the security. And so you're coming through as like the Windows security scanner, going like, all right, we found this many threats with this many files and so on and so forth. But you're going for the deep ones. You're going for the ones that are really sitting there going like, this says I am this. So you're wanting to change identities. And what do you do whenever you don't know what identity you want to take on?
Ooh, that's a good one. Well, the first thing is we got to take the old one out. And what I find with my clients is when we remove the old one, there's this space in between where, like you said, they're not quite sure. They know what they don't want, but they don't quite know what they do want. Exactly. But just clearing out the space is going to allow for the new thing to come in. Like almost all my clients, by the time we're close to done working together, they've got a new passion. They've got a new purpose bubbling up within them because they didn't realize that they were operating on a very negative system. And once that negative system was slowed down and the nervous system was regulated, which is a big part of what happens when you start releasing the pain, is that your nervous system can naturally regulate. It doesn't spike and go into fear all the time. You're recognizing more and more that you're creating the thing, that you're controlling it. You're behind the wheel. You're not perceiving that someone else is behind the wheel steering the boat. You're perceiving, no, I'm in the driver's seat and I'm choosing where this thing is going. So what would I like now? And that's something that I'm having my clients always ask themselves, what do I want now? What about now? What about now? What about now? Because it always changes for us.
Yeah. And if we're always changing, it means that our story can always change with us. How do you like to guide someone along the lines of they had childhood traumas that dealt with love, but now they're in a relationship and they're going like, the L word scares me. What do I do? How do you work someone through something like that? Because that is something that a lot of us probably deal with. Yourself said that your past identity was unlovable, and now you find yourself lovable. So that can be great whenever you're dealing with yourself. But what happens whenever we throw someone else in the mix?
Well, you know that you're going to attract someone who is probably going to trigger that out of you. Because that's what we do. We choose partners that, they represent the other person in the partnership we witnessed growing up. So usually my clients will notice, oh, like for me, I became my dad.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of women become their mom, so they attract their dad. They recognize, they see the patterns, right? So if you don't judge them, if you can look at them very neutrally and say, how interesting that I attracted this person. What are they mirroring back to me? Everything is a reflection of you, your relationship with yourself. So whoever shows up, I tell people we're looking around, not to judge, but just to get curious about Why would you have attracted this person? What is the lesson to be learned? Because everything is a lesson, right? And so what part of yourself is being reflected back by this person? So in my case, when I get triggered, I turn into, and I find that there's really two dominant personalities when one is triggered.
Okay.
They freeze, they get silent, they get small, they get quiet, right? And then the other one gets loud and aggressive, I'm that one. I am the loud, aggressive, like crazy when I get triggered. And I always attract the man who gets small and quiet. And then that triggers me more because I'm like, oh no, you left me. So
no.
it's just interesting how we attract who we attract, but there's always a reason for it. Like they're always a reflection of you. It's just looking at where did this pattern come from? It always goes back to the childhood. Where did this pattern come from?
Okay, so if we're going to look at patterns really, really close, how do you like to observe the pattern? By that, I mean, when can you establish a pattern? Because the longer the pattern goes on, the more the trauma goes on. So the quicker we can catch the pattern, the better off we are. But sometimes it takes a couple of cycles, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's why, my ladies tend to be right around middle age. And they're in some sort of a love cycle. So either they've attracted toxic men, they attract men that ghost them after a couple of dates. They've never had anyone that they've been super close to or been engaged or married, or maybe they've been divorced several times. And we got to look at the pattern. Okay, what is the common denominator in these people you're attracting? What is the common theme that's being played out? And then, see, the thing is I don't work with their conscious mind. I quiet their conscious mind in order to get the answers from the subconscious mind, because the subconscious mind knows all the answers and can take me there really quick. So I use a couple of methods. I get them in a really relaxed state, not a full hypnosis, but a relaxed state to where we can quiet the conscious mind. And then using color and emotion and their body, we access the memory that created the belief. And so then I have them pull that up, and then we run through a process to clear it, to say it quickly, to have a minimized version. Okay. And that's how I access it. So I don't use their logical mind. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does make sense, because the way I was going about it was going to be looking at it from the logical standpoint of X happens and then B happens because X happened, and so on and so forth. You're saying, let's clear all that clutter and say, there's definitely something going on, but let's just find out what it is.
Yeah, right. It's like when you go to the doctors, if you go to Western doctor, they're not looking for the root cause of your problem. They're looking for a medication to help quiet the symptoms. Well, the body is trying to give you a signal. It's saying, hey, there's something here we need to deal with. And the signal gets louder and louder and louder as you ignore it. It could turn into something bigger, right? Then it's like full-blown cancer. Then it's whatever. But it's always the body trying to send you a signal. And I believe most of the time it's, hey, we got some trapped energy in here that needs to be emoted. Energy in motion, emoted. We got to move it out. It's stuck. There's a blockage here. And so when we just get curious and say, okay, what could this be? It's just pain. It's all it is pain. And when we get to the root cause of it, we don't need the Band-Aids anymore. Let's just go to the root cause. And I believe, not to get off course, but I believe that that's kind of what's kept us sick is having these systems here in the West where our doctors aren't looking for root cause. They're not looking for the bigger meaning. They're not even dealing with the full human, meaning we're not just a body. We're not this meat suit, right? This is our avatar. This is our game player. This is who we're playing for a period of time. It's almost, physics says it's almost like it's a simulation. It's like a dream state, right? Extended dream state. But they're trying to deal with just the body, whereas we are spirit, we are soul. Why aren't you dealing with the whole person? And your emotions are They're your knob. They're letting you know where you're at. If you're in worry, if you're in fear, if you're in doubt, if you're in any of these negative vibrations, you're not going to be feeling good. You got to raise that frequency. You got to get up to love and joy and freedom and peace and all these good things. And I find that the biggest problem that people have is they have a really shitty nervous system. We got to get your nervous system regulated so that you are not startled by the cat that, comes around the corner, or this person walking into the room. We got to get you settled so that your nervous system is strong and you don't startle easily. You can't be in this fear-based place. And I think most humans are in this fear-based place most of the time.
Ooh, fear-based place. I like that. So how do we figure out if someone is in a fear-based place?
How do you feel most of the day?
That's
Your emotions are your indicator of what you're fixing to manifest. You're always manifesting, but your emotions are telling you what's coming up next. Yeah. Oh, so it goes like this. Identity creates the belief. The belief creates the emotion. Belief creates the thought. The thought creates the emotion. So it drops down to the emotional. Now it's in the body.
Okay.
And then the emotions create your results or the circumstances of your life. So it all starts with the identity, all the beliefs, and it trickles down, right? But a belief is just a thought you keep thinking. So if you get really, really good at managing your thoughts, really, really good at directing them towards what you want versus what you don't want, you're going to go up the emotional scale. You're going to feel better and better and better and better and better. Yeah.
And there's not really a stop to that, is there?
I mean, blissed out, just like, sometimes I do breath work where my body just or like Kundalini yoga, breath work, body work, where you feel high, like,
Yeah.
like something you couldn't get from any drug, but it's just breath, That's what's available to us when we can release thought.
Okay.
And yeah, releasing thought, there is nothing like that. Breath, getting into the body and releasing thought and being so absolutely present, because all fear is going into the future and projecting a negative outcome. That's all fear is.
Yeah. False expectations appearing real,
Yeah.
as I've heard it before, or
Yeah.
face everything and rise. So,
Yeah. It's like, why would I presume that terrible things are going to happen to me? Why would I presume that constantly?
for some people like myself, it's because it turned out to be true. And after time and time again, it's like, well, I was right that time, so why wouldn't I be right again?
Yeah.
So it
But
does take a little.
Yeah, but what I learned is those are bogus beliefs. It's just a belief. And the
Yeah.
beliefs, they follow the same system. They're neutral, but when you were programmed, so part of that is like epigenetics too. That's what I tell my clients. It's not really your fault. It's epigenetics. So wrapped around every strand of your DNA is something called epigenetics, and their beliefs, traumas, pain that came down the track on both mom and dad's side 7 generations back. And you just got downloaded with that system. So if you had parents like me that carried a lot of pain and it came all the way down like an avalanche and right in your lap, then there you go.
Yeah, that would explain a lot of people,
Right?
myself included. But
Yep.
real quick, can you give us a shout out to your podcast, your website, and everything like that?
Yeah. Okay. So I can provide you with my link tree
Okay.
that has all of my handles on it. But let's see. My podcast is Behind the Veil Anonymous Transformations.
Okay.
And if you go on my link tree, you could even fill out an application to possibly get on there because it's open to the public.
That's all.
Yeah, if you feel like really diving deep, hit me up there. My strongest platform is probably Instagram if you wanted to reach out to ask me any questions. Also, if you have any questions about possibly working with me, on my link tree, there's a link for a discovery call. So you get a free 20-minute call with me. Those are all the things.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That is super cool. Everyone be sure to check out the link description and, well, the episode description, and the links will be in there. There we go.
Yay.
So whenever we're dealing with pre-programmed programs and we're dealing with epigenetics and all that, how does someone actually go back and break the cycle?
Well, it starts by getting quite curious. Oh, what were you going to say?
Oh, I was just going to say it's multifaceted. So there's a lot of different processes. It's not one straight line.
Yeah.
It's really just what flows the easiest, have you seen, I guess.
Well, I created my process because I tried so many different things, right? I worked with so many different, I would try this trauma therapy, then this trauma therapy, then this trauma therapy. And what I came up with is a combination of kind of all of them. I believe anything that deals with some sort of hypnosis where it's dealing with the subconscious mind, you're just going to get more radical results from. Because if you're dealing with the conscious mind, you're coming up against so many blocks. You really got to deal with the subconscious mind. So anything, like I tell people, anything hypnosis, like if you want an easy way to tap in. Now, a lot of times we got to move out stuff. So I really think doing a shadow journal, that's why I'm creating the journal I'm creating. So someone who maybe couldn't hire someone like me, but wants to do the work, could go through a journal like this to really identify the big traumas that have had them in these cycles, right? And really work on extracting the pain from it. With you men, you have got to cry.
Yeah.
You know,
That
so when it's pain, you got to let yourself cry. You got to access it, and you have to open up Pandora's box. You have to let the rage out too. If you find yourself, find a healthy way to let rage out. There's rage rooms. There's punching bags. Sometimes when I'll have my clients scream into pillows, scream in the car at the top of their lungs. Primal screaming can be super effective.
Good.
Yeah. Breath work is so powerful. There's so many different ways for you to express your emotions, but the biggest thing is emoting.
Okay.
Emoting your emotions.
Tell me about emoting. It's not emojis. Like, I can't just text someone and just be like, emoji happy face, emoji laughy cry face, emoji skull laughy face, right? It doesn't work that way.
I mean, you could, but I don't know that would help much. It's emoting is just about letting out those things that are trapped. So it just depends on it. Pain, anger, all those low, heavy, dense emotions that were not able to come out. So if you were a little boy and you were told, oh, you're not allowed to cry, boys don't cry. So think about all that pain you just held in. You didn't let it out. How does that little boy need to express this pain? So oftentimes I have my clients go back to that broken part, and I have them see their little self. I have them scoop him up, hold him, tell him, ask him what he needs from you. What do you need from me? Sometimes he just wants a hug. Sometimes he's going to want, whatever he wants from you, be that for him. Let him get all of his emotions out. Say, I hear you. I see you. Cry out here. I'm here for you. I'll always be here for you. You've never been alone. I'm so proud of you. I love you so much. Give him whatever he needs. When you have done that enough, you are going to clear out a lot of that pain just by nurturing him or her, right? But emoting for men especially is you have got to cry. You've got to let it out. You've got to dip into it. You've got to open the box. And oftentimes that's in order to do that, you're going to have to go back to the memories. And I do it my own way. I think there's lots of shadow journals out there, even though I haven't gone through any of them personally. I'm sure there's plenty of them that would be super powerful, but you want to constantly ask yourself, what would I have to believe about myself in order to feel like this? What would I have to believe about life in order to feel like this? That's how you can start to access your beliefs, is by just being very curious about figuring you out and why you do the things you do and why you feel the way you feel.
And so whenever someone's figuring out all of this stuff, you said it earlier, no judgment, right?
No judgment.
because do you lead them into either creating a whole new identity, or do you suggest they chip away at it like a marble statue, or how do you suggest they create their new identity as they're going
Good
through all
question.
this?
Well, when I'm working with someone, I'm tapping into their field.
Mm-hmm.
You could call it, I don't want to call it that.
Uh,
I'm fully entering into their consciousness. So it is psychic in a way. That's
so
the
like
word
a
I wanted
symbiote.
to avoid.
No, that's totally fine. I was going along like symbiotic something to where like you're
Yeah.
intermingling
Yeah.
in a sense, but on an energetic level.
Yeah. That's exactly it. So I'm going into the memory with them. I
Mm-hmm.
am I'm feeling into where they're at and what they need to express. So the biggest thing is, what do they need to express? Do they need to
Mm-hmm.
express anger? So sometimes they're holding back anger. So I'm encouraging them to, if I see it directed at a certain person, I'll take them in their mind's eye, right? We're using their
Mm-hmm.
imagination to do this.
Yeah.
But I'll take them through their imagination to meet that person face to face
Mm-hmm.
and to speak on behalf of their child self. So I want you,
Ooh.
so it'll be like if they have a lot of unforgiveness towards a parent, I'll
Mm-hmm.
have them grab their hand of their little self and I'll say,
Mm-hmm.
walk over to your mom and I want you to tell her everything that this little version of you needed to say. You're going to speak for
Wow.
her. And if I feel them holding back, I'll get you need to speak. I'll get it. I'm just reading them. I'm giving them permission to feel all of it
Mm-hmm.
and get it out of them.
Yeah.
Right. And
Uh-huh.
so usually when they come out of it, they are,
Yeah.
they are just because it's so heavy, I opened them up to something that they had closed for their entire life. So it can be challenging to face those demons, we could call them. I don't believe in them as they've been taught to the masses, but
Mm-hmm.
to face them and to see them for what they are is just shadows. They're
Mm-hmm.
all just shadows that you created
Yeah.
because you didn't know you were a child.
Yeah. And we can't see the stars in the shadows if we're running away from them. So,
Exactly.
so whenever we're dealing with shadows and by the way, I gotta say, I absolutely love the whole walking with your younger self to talk to whoever, because I like that.
I do that one a lot.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm probably going to have to use that in my own practice here in a little bit.
I think you should.
Yeah, and you're spot on with guys needing to cry because that is one of the, I would say, first things that really hit me in therapy because I took me about 3 or 4 sessions before I had my first tear come down. And then after that, I loved going to it because I was getting stuff out. And there's nothing like a good cry if you haven't actually had a good cry. So I just got to say, on behalf of men out there, thank you for encouraging men to be more emotional, more open, more vulnerable, because having shut off emotions just creates turmoil and chaos everywhere I go.
You can't shut them off. They're literally stuck in your body and they will turn into disease.
Yeah.
That's just the way it is. So that's why I tell people you can leave it in there, but it
Hmm.
ain't going to work out very good for you because you are
No.
living with the pain and
Hmm.
it's
And
metastasizes as disease in the body because
mhm.
emotions are energy.
Yeah, and mine eventually metastasized into addiction, which I refer to as the disease of choice. So it definitely is one of those things that I would either shove it in a little bottle and toss it to the side, hoping it doesn't explode whenever it landed, or try to open it up again and it explodes at the worst time.
Yeah.
And so it's one of those that if I knew now what I knew back then, I would be a totally different person. This podcast wouldn't even be a thing. And I'm just glad that I have been through what I've been through because otherwise, I mean, who knows?
Right?
And I mean, I was right there with you in my addiction trying to take my own life before. So It's not fun. And again, to anyone out there, not just guys, cry if you need to. That was the biggest block for me, and it's out of the way. So I say that, but every now and then, like earlier while you were talking,
You have to continuously cry. No, it's
hmm
not a one and done type of thing. No, it is like you are going to need to cry regularly.
hmm
Men aren't quite, women take on a lot of the emotions that men don't. So that's why we perceive, oh, women are so emotional. No, both men or women are emotional. It's just we have had more permission to emote our emotions. Whereas you guys have been shamed to feel pain. You're not supposed to feel it. And of course, that's not even possible because emotions are our guidance system. It's letting us know, hey, we're headed towards somewhere we don't want to go. We're going down. We're going down. We're going down. It's like, it's just letting us know where we're at in our thought life. That's it. We got to stop judging the pain. The pain is a gift. The pain is a gift. The pain is the reason why you know to move your hand off that hot stove. What do you want to just let your hands, just completely burn off because you didn't feel the pain when it first got hot? You know what I'm saying? So it is a gift. You just have to see it as that in order to experience that.
Yeah.
The suffering isn't necessary.
Ooh. So the suffering isn't necessary. The pain is a gift. So what do we do in between those?
Well, suffering, we only suffer when we resist, right? When we resist the pain is when we suffer. Don't ever resist the pain. Go into it. It only takes 90 seconds to dissolve the pain if you go into it with no resistance. 90 seconds. And people will sit there for a lifetime storing it up. Go into it.
Okay.
Feel it fully. Take it all on. Feel it in every single cell of your body and dissolve it. That's what you were made to do. You weren't made to hold it. You were made to allow the energy to flow freely through you, in and out, in and out. And whenever there's a place in your body where it's not freely flowing in and out, that's where disease happens. And that's just stuck old energy, old negative emotion. So unblock it, let that shit flow freely.
So whenever people get stuff unblocked, do you see some health benefits as once the emotional blocks go away?
Yeah, I had one client say to me, I've never felt this pain free since I was an adolescence before before I had my
Wow.
period. So yeah, all pain starts with the mind. You can't convince me otherwise.
Yeah.
Every bit of disease, in my opinion, starts in the mind.
That's really strong because it really does turn into mind over matter at that point. And you said it before that our bodies and ourselves are more than just our bodies. And we're talking about the soul, energy, all that stuff. And so emotions being energy, which one do you find gets sticky? The one that likes to hold on to other emotions with it. Does that make sense? Which
No.
one? Okay, so I guess it would be more like a trauma. Which trauma tends to capture more emotions for itself?
Well, I'd say a big issue I see with people is unforgiveness.
Mm,
Unforgiveness that always boils down to self. Unforgiveness
mm,
towards self is what I see as people's biggest block. You
or-
have to let it go. You have to have compassion for yourself. You have to
mm,
have such extreme compassion for yourself and love for yourself that you let it go. You have to let it go. You have to let it be. Stop beating yourself up. Stop holding that grudge against yourself. You did the best you could with what you had at the time. Period. I don't care what happened. You did the very best you could with what you had. And so these people that want to hold on to this unforgiveness, they perceive it towards other people, but it never is, because when I get down to the root of it with them, it's always
mhm.
themselves.
Always themselves. So why do
As
they?
within, so without. Everything's a reflection of the relationship you have with yourself.
Hmm, that's
So
very true.
if you are sitting there judging other people, look at the things you're judging them for. Those are the things you're judging you for.
Mm, yeah. I can definitely say with my past experiences, that is definitely the case. And how do you think that it is that some people can relinquish that pride in holding on to that trophy?
They got to fall in love with themselves. They got to fall absolutely and utterly in love with themselves. They got to value themselves so high that they don't allow anything low standard, low budget. No, they're up here. And everyone who comes in their field, they have to up level themselves. They won't hang with the old people because the old people cannot go where they're going. They have high standards because they know how truly valuable they are. They realize that they are just a soul having a physical experience. They realize that they came here for a really big purpose, and they didn't come here to appease everyone else and make everyone else happy. They came here for their own unique purposes, and it has nothing to do with all those people. Although they love them,
Mm-hmm.
they can't love them or value them more than they value themselves.
Okay, so what would you say to someone if they were borderline narcissist, though? Because isn't
Well,
that
that
almost the same thing?
you can't be a narcissist and be in love with yourself. That's impossible.
Ooh, I've not heard someone say that.
It's
Can you
impossible.
explain?
Because when you're in love with you, you're in love
Mm-hmm.
with everyone else. You see everyone through
Ooh.
the same lens, just pure love. And I know from my personal experience, I could have definitely been categorized as a narcissist before my healing journey.
Mm-hmm.
And I just had so much self-hatred, just so much. But when I fell in love with me, I fell in love with everyone else. I want everyone to thrive. I don't want me to just thrive. I want
Uh-huh.
everyone to thrive. I can't make them, I can't choose for them, but I want that for them. Do you know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
when you put on those rose colored glasses, everyone's affected by everyone around you is going to be affected by that deep love that you just emanate and emote and radiate. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's all
Yeah.
energy, anyways.
Yeah, that's really cool. I'm really glad that you absolutely abolished that whole notion that narcissists only love themselves. Because whenever you put it in that term, it just, oh, it made everything just feel so much better and sweeter. So whenever someone has to deal with a textbook narcissist, they're really in for a world of turmoil, pain, and a lot of other stuff.
What would I
But
have to believe about myself in order to attract a narcissist?
ooh, that hmm. There's a few different lines of thought on that, isn't there?
No, I think there's one. I must not value
Oh,
myself if I let someone else treat me like shit over and over and over and over and over again.
yeah,
If I got
value.
with someone and they, I've dated someone who would be, I hate those kind of titles, but we'll go with someone who might be considered a narcissist. I've dated those kind of people, but they don't last long because
Hmm.
you see the flags and you're like, oh, nope, 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 nope. But the person who stays and says, oh, yes, this is my value, this is what I deserve.
Hmm.
That's what it always takes. It has to.
And
You're
then,
attracting everything based on your belief system.
hmm and then that's whenever we can go right back around and be like, oh, hey, look, we found a pattern because so and so has dated this person, this person, this person, and they were all narcissists, or they had similar traits and traumas follow them. But essentially, it goes back to what is that person believing about themselves?
Exactly. Yeah. The pattern thing, I had one lady come on my podcast and she's like, yeah, I got beat by this husband. I got beat by that husband. I got, almost killed by this husband. And I said,
Mm,
you had a father that was very abusive. And she said, yeah. You just know it always comes from somewhere. The pattern doesn't just show up out of nowhere. That goes against when you understand the way human beings work, the way we're programmed, the way we create our own reality,
hmm.
then you can just identify what everything it's just common sense. She must have had this experience somewhere in her experience in early childhood. She was taught that this was what she deserved.
Mm, okay. So, whenever we're dealing with let's say the viruses of the past, and someone is coming along, such as, well, let's say you're coming along helping someone clear out their virus vault. Whenever someone comes across one that they don't want to get rid of, what would you tell them?
I have no attachment to whether or not they keep it.
Mm,
I have one goal and for them to heal, and there are times I give them some really tough love, but I don't work with those kind of people anymore. But
mm,
maybe earlier on in my journey, you just have to be okay and meet them right where they're at. You do. You
mm,
have to be, you got to stand for them and say, I love you so much. I want great things for you. I want you to hold yourself to this standard, but I can't make you. And sometimes that's really difficult because you get attached and you want so badly for them to release this program. And you
mm.
have to realize that typically someone has to be in a lot of pain before they choose to change. And I know that was true for me. I was in such a desperate place that I was like, willing to give it all up. Do you know what I mean? So you have to meet them right where they're at and say, if you have not lived out this lesson yet, then there's still more to be learned.
Mm, mm. Well, and that's whenever the tough love comes in and says, I'll love you from a distance until you're ready to come back, right?
That's unconditional love. Unconditional love
Mm,
is you don't have to change. I'm still going to love you. You get
mm.
to have it your way. You get to have it your way. And sometimes it's not going to look too cute to me, but it's not my experience,
Ooh,
right?
yeah. You, I imagine setting up personal boundaries for yourself and trying to help other people through all that was incredibly difficult.
What's really hard has been for me is not bringing coaching into my friendships.
Ooh, yeah, I could see that one being pretty difficult.
Yeah. It's like
I would do that.
they don't want your help, girl. And
Mm.
me getting over my savior complex too, because that was part of
Ooh.
my programming. My father, he died when I was young and he died
Mm,
of AIDS. And so he knew he was going. And
mm,
he would tell me I have a sister who's developmentally delayed. She's older than me. And my dad would be like, you better make sure that you take care of your sister. Like you make sure no one makes fun of her. You take care of her. And I took that to mean at my little 10-year-old brain took that to
mm,
mean that I was responsible for everyone else. So
mm,
that and that's part that savior complex is how I created, that's how I ended up here, right? But at the
mhm,
same time it's something that I'm constantly working on where I'm not I'm not casting my pearls amongst swine. I'm not giving myself and my wisdom to someone who doesn't pay me.
mm.
So I don't do that
Yeah.
to my friends anymore. I mean, they might ask me for advice here or there, but I don't coach them for free. I don't give them my wisdom, and I also don't choose friends now
Mm.
that need saving like I used to.
Yeah. And that can be pretty difficult too, because you probably see yourself in those either past situations or friendships that you have to say, look, I'll love you from a distance, but it's for the betterment of both of us, right?
Yeah, or just me.
Or just you, yeah.
Like the selfishness is required. Selfishness doesn't mean I don't care about you. It just means
Hmm.
I have to guard my own peace amongst it. I have to be so careful with my energy because I'm holding other people's traumas. If I go in all fuzzy because I didn't fill up my own cup first, then I can't really be of service like I want to be to my clients. So I have to be so very careful with who I
Hmm.
give my energy to. So it makes it more challenging in friendships for me. And I'm constantly having to look at it and being like, okay, what do I need to adjust here? What am I over giving? Is there reciprocity here? And that was a big thing that I was working on was reciprocity because I was giving and giving and giving of myself and I really wasn't receiving back. Not to the level I was giving. And so I have to constantly be looking at the reciprocity piece. And that's just
Hmm.
part of being the me I decided to be in this lifetime. It's one of those things that I'll probably be looking at until I, transition out of this meat suit.
Hmm. And I think that that's probably going to be the one that you're going to be like me, just sitting there going constantly like, why is that the one that I chose this time? Right?
I mean, yes and no. Like, I believe that astrology really tells us those questions. Have you ever looked at your full astrology chart? I think it really tells you, when you dig into it enough, it tells you what your life purpose is and what you came here to do and and the big lessons you came here to learn. So mine, a big one for me is freedom. I came here to embody freedom because for many lifetimes, I saw myself as not being free, whether I was incarcerated or whether I just felt not fully autonomous. So in this lifetime, it's all about creating that freedom of mind, because it's as within, so without. And so that's a big one for me is freedom, feeling free, feeling like I'm creating this myself. And that gets us out of the victim mentality, because the victim says, you're all doing this to me. You're all responsible for my horrible life experience, versus saying, no, I created it. It's all mine and it's all working out for my good.
So right back all to that ownership. I love it. So this does leave me with a question, and no pressure, but do you think that we could see you in the future on another episode? Because we are running out of time.
Yeah, absolutely. We could do a part 2.
Sweet. I love that, because we never know what life is going to have right around the corner, and both of us have things going on outside of this interview. So I would love to see updated perspective and see what else we can dive into whenever it comes to relationships and trauma, if that sounds good.
Yeah, sounds great.
All
Yeah.
right. So Tammy, one more time, could you let everyone know the podcast, your website, your link tree, I guess, Instagram?
Yes, my Instagram handle is Tammy N, as in Nancy, Cox 7. That's such a tongue twister. Oh my gosh. Tammy N, Cox 7. Who chose that? I don't know. Probably me. And then podcast is Behind the Veil, Anonymous Transformations. If you just put in Behind the Veil, you'll get some random ones. So make sure you put in Anonymous Transformations. And then my link tree is I Wish I Knew.
It's okay. It'll be in the episode description.
Okay, good. I'm not the techie one. I'm not a techie person. I could tell you are, Keegan, but I am totally not. So when you ask me that's probably not even all that techie of a question, but I don't remember that stuff very well.
No worries. It's all good.
Okay.
But we will see you in the future, and
Yes.
it's been absolutely awesome to have you on the show, and I can't wait to see what all good is going to come out of this episode, because you never know who's going to hear it, and someone out there is going to be like, I'm going to need to speak to Tammy. She knows exactly what I need.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Keegan. It was a really fun conversation. I look forward to round 2. Whenever you want to
I
do
do
that,
too.
you just let me know.
Awesome. I forgot. I do have one question that I ask everyone, and it's a 3-digit number that someone can call whenever they are in a mental crisis. Do you know what that number is?
911?
Well, that is one.
Mental
But
crisis.
a
You gonna
mental
call
crisis, like
Ghostbusters? Sorry, totally not what you
you're
were going
fine.
for.
It's
611.
988.
98.
So, yep, it is a U.S. Suicide prevention hotline. So, if we can teach our young ones how to dial 911 in case of an emergency, why can't we teach our friends and loved ones how to dial 911, 988 in case they're having suicidal ideations or anything like that?
I love that. Love
All
it.
right. All right. Well, Tammy, it has been an absolute pleasure and an honor. And everyone out there, thank you for listening to Retrieving Sanity on WDJY 99.1 FM. And as always, you have a great rest of your day, evening, or whenever you've been watching this. And as always, much love. Schlan.